Today is February 18th, 2020. The Lawrence Board of Zoning Appeals is called to order at this time. Our first order of business is to elect a chair and a co-chair for this year. We will open the floor for nominations for the chair.
I'll nominate Becky Lytle for chair and thank her for her leadership in the last year. You've done a great job, and I hope you do it for another year.
Thank you. Any other nominations?
We would need a second on Becky, too.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you very much, you guys. I appreciate that. Now for co-chair for the year. A nomination. I'll nominate Tom. Tom was co-chair last year. We've worked together many years.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Tom, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes from January 21st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those,
Two moved. Stevens?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes stand as written. If you have not done so, please sign in at the back of the room, and anyone wishing to speak tonight, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Answer with I do. Thank you. Do we have any special requests tonight, continuance, withdrawals, or waivers? Nothing. Okay, petitioner, please step up to the mic. You get 10 minutes to, hold on a second. Our first case is 20 LSV 2, 7612 Pendleton Pike, variance of development standard of Chapter 742-1-04-E to allow for transparency on the only one side of the entrance at 40%, required at least 40% of the wall surface area between 3 feet and 6 feet above grade level, and within 50 feet of each side of the entrance shall be glass or other transparent glass.
All right, good evening. My name is Chris Holyfield. I'm a civil engineer with the Mannix Smith Group. Today, I have with me Amanda Aldridge. She's with Carroll's, and then we also have Dave Wagner, architect with Curran Architecture. I'm gonna briefly just go over the site and what we're doing, and then I'll let Amanda also chime in. But we're at the corner of Hull and Pendleton Pike. Right now, it's a vacant lot. It used to be, I think, a lot of things, but I think the latest thing, it was a car dealership. And so we're gonna go in and demolish the building, take out the pavement, build a new Burger King, new pavement. We're also installing new utilities and new landscape in the area. Our storm will be underground. We are providing underground storm drainage for the detention system as well. We've submitted plans to the city already for review. We've also submitted to the city of Indianapolis as well, and those are under review. So that's a little brief description of the site and what we're looking to do construction-wise. Variance, as you've stated, we're seeking a variance on that transparency requirement on the, if you're looking at the elevation on the right side of the doors, if we were to have those glass, those would show into the bathrooms and the kitchens, so it becomes a concern for the customers as well. And so we're requesting that we don't have to do the variancy as per the code.
Okay, when you're saying right, is it when we're looking at the place, or is it?
You've got pictures, it's easier.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier, I think.
Do you
if
folks have copies of these up there?
Yep.
Okay, great. So if
do.
you could refer to elevation number 1,
Petition.
it's on sheet A 2.1. Sorry if I'm overstepping.
No, no,
go
you're
ahead. Probably more appropriate. Good evening, folks. So once you guys all get that up there in front of you, that's the elevation that we're talking about, where it says Home of the Whopper and the round Burger King sign over the main entrance to the dining room. On the left side of that main entrance tower is the main dining room space, and everything to the right of that main entrance is what we would refer to as back of house. And so there's
Okay.
kitchen space, storage space, there's an interior walk-in cooler, there's restrooms back there.
Okay.
There's really no way to reconfigure that, as these buildings are set up basically to be about half and half, maybe 1/3, 2/3 back of house and front of house. So we've got as much as we can possibly get in the front of house, in the dining room. There's windows on all three sides of it, so, to the best of our ability. We just can't really get any more into the back of the building. And I think you'll see this is pretty typical of a lot of fast food restaurants that you'll see in the area.
Does the board have any questions? You answered my question.
I do have a question. I'm familiar with that site. I drive past it
Sir.
twice a day.
Well, we're hoping to make it look a little nicer.
Well, and I'm familiar with that. I think you were talking about that was originally, I believe it was a Wendy's when it was.
I was just asking her that. It was like, okay, what was it before?
Yeah, it was,
See their roof.
it was.
Things come full circle then, don't they?
My question is, and I got a report about the amount of traffic accidents in that area. Fairly highly congested area. Are you will the building be set back further than it currently is to allow for?
I'm gonna let Chris answer this. He's the site designer here.
Okay. I think there's probably about an average of one accident at least per month, and they're all following too closely, failure to yield, running the stop sign there at 42nd Street, so.
And Chris can explain it better because he's a technical person, but if you look at it, how there are, two businesses kind of there today.
Oh, yeah, we got something. The site plan, is it the site plan?
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of gray and white, and it's got the what would be asphalt, or road, I should say. If you look at the two curb cuts on the front, if I'm not mistaken, there are multiple entry points currently from Pendleton Pike, because you have two different businesses fronting Pendleton Pike. So you would actually decrease.
So you would
Those curb
limit it
cuts.
to basically two entrances, one on either side of the restaurant?
And sorry if I can jet in, one of those entrances are actually going to be a right out only. We're not allowing in traffic, and that's the traffic that's going to be kind of where the drive-throughs come in. And so the two-way, one entrance will be two-way, and that's the larger entrance. And then the other existing entrance is only going to be an exit only.
Okay.
They also have, if you look at the plan, there's an alternate exit that goes out onto.
I see that.
Sellers.
So you're kind of going back behind
They could go out and hit.
Papa's Pancake House.
See, they,
Yes.
there
Good.
and there.
Yeah, they can get back to
So,
Sellers up
Sellers,
here,
and
and
then
then
they can go
also,
north and go through the.
Which might be
industrial
better,
complex.
because then they can go to the stoplight.
there's a traffic signal there, and they can turn left onto Pendleton if
I
needed.
would agree that.
Yeah, I think that would, and then once they get that warehouse down there up and stuff,
Freegies.
yeah.
I
Well-
think this is,
And
to
Papa's is
be a
going
bank.
to. Papa's is gonna be demolished, and it will be another business. I'm not allowed to say yet what, but.
Oh, really?
That's okay. That's okay. I've seen plans for it too, so.
they don't, and we don't cross access, so you won't have people like cutting here.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a wall
So
there.
it'll,
Okay, thank you.
And there'll be sidewalks?
The city of Indianapolis requires us to put sidewalk along all our frontage, and so we're actually putting sidewalk up here on Sellers, and then we're finishing the sidewalk along Whole Street all the way down to Pendleton Pike.
Is that part of the Pendleton Pike corridor plan still, or is that changed?
It's still part of the industrial park redevelopment thing that Tom started years ago.
Okay, okay.
Redevelopment, Pendleton Pike redevelopment, I think is what you called it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, board? Thank you very much. We'll hear, is there anybody here for or against the petition? We'll hear from DMD, Larry.
Thank you. We are recommending approval of this request. Basically, the transparency requirement is intended to provide for surveillance into and surveillance out of the building as part of what's called crime prevention through environmental design. It's something, actually they're having a session with or a week-long training first week of March that one of my coworkers is going to with the police department and some trainers from Atlanta coming up to do that conference. And this is one aspect of it, is to provide for adequate transparency to be able to see into and out of a building, to be able to know what's going on, and they can see what's going on in the parking lot, and police or passerbys can see what's going on there, so you can at least get ahead of things if something doesn't look right, and you can provide that easily access that sort of visual information or visual cues, and so our concern only arises if we feel there hasn't been an attempt to provide for an adequate amount of transparency to allow that to occur. And so, with what they've proposed, we feel there's adequate amount of transparency, and obviously we don't want to have transparency into bathrooms and places like that. So, we do support this petition, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, I have a question about C5. The lot that this building is being built on, I think, is C5, and we laughed about it being an old Wendy's, then a used car lot. And if there ever has been a history of Penland Pike, it is that. One business goes to a default being used car lots. At one point, we had 35 of them between Post Road and the interstate. This is a variance, but the C5 underline is sitting there just waiting for the next user. Is that correct? It's still a C5 zone property.
Right. I mean, one thing that the, City of Lawrence or whomever wanted to get involved, the council, if they wanted to kind of work with our department and the Metropolitan Development Commission and see if there'd be a willingness to come up with a rezoning that would be initiated by the Metropolitan Development Commission to rezone some of this C5 area to another district. Obviously, there may be people that own the properties that may be opposed to that, but it's something maybe that could be explored if people are really serious about it.
There's nothing we can really do here.
Right,
There's still C5 underneath.
right.
And can a Burger King be built on a C4?
Right, yes. Now, and let's maybe back up a little bit. In terms of what you could do on an individual case-by-case basis, if you have someone before you and if they're willing to commit to it, you could request that they commit to rezone the site to, say, a C4 district or something like that. as part of the approval of the variance.
But that would involve, for them to be involved in a rezoning.
Right, they'd have to file, yeah, they'd have to commit to it as part of the variance, and then they'd have to follow up with the rezoning. Like the commitment would say something like, you'd have to file a rezoning, because there's no guarantee, obviously, things, we can't guarantee it'll get approved, but the only thing they can commit to is that they will file a rezoning to, say, a C4 or C3 district prior to the issuance of an improvement location permit or a building permit from Lawrence or something like that.
Which would delay the whole process.
Well, it wouldn't delay them going forward. They would just have to, as they're going through the permitting process, or before they go through the permitting process, just get that on file. And then it's just, and then they continue on with whatever they're doing. But, I mean, that's just,
And it
Always.
seems a little awkward.
I think it should be something that the city should take on with DMD.
Yeah,
Look at individual properties up and down Pike, if that's something that the administration wants to do.
yeah, no, that, say we'd like
more
suggest it to them.
I think it'd be more appropriate.
Yeah,
for the
no, I
city
think
to
that's
take
right.
that and
I would agree.
Instead of asking petitioners to do that. That's a big expense on a petitioner. It's like $6,000 to file a rezoning case.
I agree, but just got to get rid of some C5.
I completely agree with you.
Does anybody have any more questions for Larry? Thank you, Larry.
sure.
We'll hear from the City of Lawrence.
The city of Lawrence has read the report provided by DMD and is in agreement with the recommendation for approval.
Thank you. Petitioner, anything else to add?
Nothing other than we're excited for this opportunity. We're very excited about this site. And if there is something we can help with rezoning along the way, without, I mean, my big deal with rezoning would be, I mean, quite frankly, we would be willing to cover the cost, but it would just be exposure to like spending the money and then somehow something getting sideways and it getting zoned B2 and they're like, oh, you can't go. Or so, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
Like,
that
it-
is clear.
that, just let us know. I mean, if that is something that we can help with,
Is
Mention it to the
just
administration.
to be a good community.
this the same ownership of the Burger King at Oak Landing and Pendleton Pike?
I think so. We have a lot here, but there are other franchisees sprinkled about. And so while I've been working on this particular project, it's kind of funny. Carroll's has grown a lot. And so I had Indianapolis. And then someone came in and they were working on Indianapolis, although I've never not worked on this particular, I mean, Pendleton Pike's been my baby for a couple years. But anyway, I kind of came back to it, so I'm not as familiar with all of our sites around here. I mean, we have the site to the north.
I was just wondering how that is zoned at that location.
That I can find out either way.
Yeah, I can
it's
find
all
that out really
Yeah.
easy too.
Now, how long until this is built?
We are working.
We're working on our testing, and we've done a lot of testing, had to do a lot of testing, because it was a gas station at once,
Right.
way back in the day, and then
Contamination.
some of the older ones, and we didn't find contamination, but it's more what's really down there. They left just stuff.
Yeah.
Metal, concrete. I mean, there are just so many things.
Yeah.
Trying to figure kind of, still working on that part. But for the most part, I mean, everything's looking good.
Really? Okay, good.
I mean, it's looking pretty, I mean, stormwater,
Want to put in an order to
Stormwater's
go back?
actually-
we've crossed that
Yeah.
hurdle, which that's normally a pretty big.
Well, we need to vote on this.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, thank you.
So, any other questions at this time? Board will be voting on a variance of development standard of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for 40% transparency on one side of the entrance. The board has unanimously granted your petition. Thank you. If there is no other business, the Lawrence Board of Zoning Appeals is adjourned.